Where do I begin? Right then, hello you lot, welcome back to Iron Horse Railways. Now, Hornby recently released their latest foray into the Era 1 locomotive market, which hasn't been smooth anyway, given the whole Tipfield Thunderbolt thing. But they had Rocket, which was a lovely little model, and then they released Lion, and now they've released Locomotion, or Stockton and Darlington No.1, whatever you want to call it. Active, or whatever they say. And me, like a lot of you out there, when I first saw this model a couple of years ago, the engineering prototypes running, it looked really cool, and I was properly taken by it. I fell in love with the damn little thing. I thought, this is a gorgeous looking little model. It really is, it really was. And it's finally here. And I spoke to Andy at SAWYER Models, and I got mine sent to me, and I spoke to my mate John, and we even made a custom little sound profile for it with the proper little bell sound on there, and a few extras for me as well, because I'm an idiot. And he sent to me, and that's when there's no other way to put this, that's when the bullshit began. Iron Horse Railways is proudly sponsored by SAWYER Models of Lee. There you will find quality used and new rolling stock from all the major gauges, all the way from Z to O gauge. They also carry an extensive selection of scenic items, including the WWS Scenic range, from static grasses all the way to grass tufts and all points in between. Of course, you can expect friendly service when you visit the store, but of course, if that's not your thing or you can't make it to the store, their website carries an extensive range of models and accessories from all the major scales. And thank you once again to SAWYER Models for being our sponsor. It's when the headache began. First things first, what I will say is this. Out of the box, nothing had fallen off of the damn thing. The steps hadn't fallen off, no bits and pieces were hanging off. The motion and all the uppy downy spider leg things were all working fine. And when I put it on the rolling road on DC, it ran perfectly. No issues at all, no tight spots, which I know a lot of folks out there have reported. A lot of tight spots, a lot of issues with the running and whatever. So, okay, fine. But I'm not DC. I'm DCC. And this is where the first problem was. Now, to fit your chip, you've got to get the tender, turn the locomotive upside down, and you can't put it inside a normal cradle because of the massive chimney and all the fine motion. So you've sort of got to hold it in your hand or use the Hornby cradle itself, which is weird. You've got a screwdriver and you've got a screw hole in the bottom of the tender. The problem I encountered was even my thinnest, smallest screwdriver was too thick to get down the screw hole. So it wouldn't go in at all. And I've had hundreds of locomotives. I've had N-scale locomotives, and I've never encountered a screw hole or a screw so small in all of my friggin' existence. I was at it for 2 hours last night. 2 hours I was at it, trying to get a screwdriver to fit, looking under benches and down the side of my bed and in the toolbox that I've not opened for 6 years, because I was sure I had one thin enough, but no, I didn't. So what I had to do was, like most things in life, it can be fixed with one of three things: zip ties, a big hammer, or a big drill. No, I didn't hammer it, but I felt like it. No, I used my drill. And I just very gently, use a drill bit and just bored out the screw hole. Just slightly. Just big enough so I could get my smallest screwdriver in. Funnily enough, it was the same size head as the screw in there, so it worked. So that was day one over with. Then day two came. DCC fitting it. Now, I tried two sound decoders, so two DCC decoders. One was a sound decoder. I'd already seen online that for some reason the HM7000 decoder didn't fit. Bit of a strange one, considering this is one of Hornby's own locomotives and it's pre-fitted with a speaker, so you can't really say that it's not been designed to fit with sound because you've got a speaker in there, and it's an X18 speaker as well. It's an X18 socket and they're already connected to the speaker through the circuit board. So what was it? Did you fall behind, Hornby? Is that what it was? You didn't quite have the small X18 ones ready yet, so you released the model without a proper decoder? Because I've seen online They're recommending a Dapple Imperium decoder, and I haven't got a Dapple Imperium. I had an old Rails, a Sheffield one, which was a nice small tiny thing. I did have a DCC Concepts one, but that of course has gone missing, so I couldn't try that one. But it's the same sort of dimensions. In fact, it's a little bit smaller than the Rails or Sheffield one, but it wouldn't fit. I spent a good hour and a half again trying to get this decoder in, and it just wasn't happening. So I spoke to John JMC, and he said he'll send me a Zemo MS something or other, I don't know. Zemo, I've got a weird naming convention. But he said, I'll send you one of these, Craig, and I'll put you an ace little sound profile on it, and we did all the cool little mixing and things. And it'll definitely fit. It didn't fit. And when I say it didn't fit, it wasn't too wide for the tender or too long for the tender. No, the problem was very specific. The way that an X18 decoder works, as I'm sure you all know, is you've got your socket and you've got your decoder and you plug it, it just sort of clips in, doesn't it? The issue seems to be is that the way that Hornby have designed the socket to sit in the tender is all the plastic of the tender sits around the socket, and it's to the point where if you put a X18 decoder in, it will not sit enough into the socket without springing back out. So depending on what I've already said or so far in the video, this is where we're at now. This is now day 2 of trying to get a very common sound decoder into Locomotion, and we've had to resort to taking the tender apart, almost like the bonnet of a hood, because, and I will show you now, the problem being is that it's almost like the X18 socket is too shallow for a X18 decoder when the body of the tender is clipped in place, and that's been proven because I've lifted the body out of the way now, and the chip now sits in. I've turned it on and sound is coming through the speaker. So I think what I'm going to have to do is just trim away at these sides here. You can just sort of see them. Trim away at these sides here on either side of the tender, and then that will hopefully allow me to close the tender body back again. But I've had to just take it all apart, and it's just delicate and stressful, and you can see all the tiny bits of screws here. Look, the steps fell off, by the way. They didn't break, they weren't loose in the box, oddly enough. That's the swing bar as well, that'll need putting back on. It's delicate work, and I've got hands for strangling, not for delicate PCB work. So, it's points down for this, it really is. So, sorry for the quality of the video, guys, but this is like 8:30 at night, and I'm trying to get this to work because I'm pissed off now. I've had to pretty much cut away a lot of the inside of the tender, which will all be hidden by coal anyway, but it's just arse sake. I'm just trying to get this thing to mount back on again now. But having the PCB as the bottom of the tender, I don't know if that's really clever or really stupid. And I just couldn't get it to fit. I was so frustrated because I've been looking forward to this for months, and the loco arrived at work and I was proper giddy, proper excited, like a little child, and I wanted to get it working and chugging along and doing all the stuff. So I felt the only course of action was to get the tools out and start doing some digging. I disassembled the tender the best I could, at which point the steps fell off and the handbrake snapped. That's not Hornby's fault, that's probably mine, because it's a small locomotive. I mean, you handle these things too much and things break. It is what it is. It's not really fair of me to blame Hornby for that. I'm a little bit pissed off that I've had to do it to begin with, but that isn't Hornby's fault. I think that's just mine for being worked up, angry and a little bit careless, but I digress. So what I did is I opened the tender a little bit and I snipped off the plastic edges on the inside so I could get the decoder in and then put the tender on top of it. As it happens, once I did that, the decoder can be fitted and removed fine now. And I was really superbly happy with it. I thought, this is fantastic. This is working really well now. So the next part of the mission began. I've rebuilt the tender, fiddly as it was, got everything back together, and it worked. Have a listen to this. So as you can, well, see and hear, it was working fine. And I even put a stay alive in it, and it was working fine with the stay alive in there. And it was running up and down the layout all for a good, I'd say, half an hour. And it was running really well. The tender pickups are just terrible. It's a little tiny spring wrapped around the axle. It's not even wrapped around the axle tightly. So the pickups on the tender are just basically for show. They're not functional at all, really. They're very poor. So you are just relying on the four wheels on the locomotive, and they're not the best in the world, but they do work if you run the locomotive fast enough. So stay alive's pretty much a necessity, but there's not a lot of room. Obviously, you've seen the damn thing, it's tiny. But I managed to get it in there, and as I said, it was rolling around nicely and fine for a good half an hour. And then it just stopped. No mass, nothing, no pois. It stopped dead in its tracks. And I thought I've knocked something or the decoder's popped out. No, the decoder popped.
Quick interjection, guys. This is the shaky hand cam thing I've got going on here for you. I think I figured out why the locomotive blew the decoder. Essentially, the speaker that is just loosely in the tender water tank, it just sort of sits in there loose, and the backs of it are not insulated at all, and the decoder sits right underneath it, and we're talking a matter of millimeters above it. It wouldn't surprise me if the speaker had dropped or fell onto the decoder, and that's what stopped it from working. So going forward, what I've done is I've insulated the buggery out of the back of the speaker. Really easy thing to miss, to be honest with you, and if I've missed it, a complete novice could easily miss it, especially because, as far as I can see, there's no mention of it in the instructions, so that's just something else to be aware of. Anyway, back to the video.
Decoder's dead, gone, finito. I managed to get the rails decoder out spare, and I plugged that in, and it started working again, although horrible, because those aren't the best decoders in the world to begin with, but that's another story entirely. So I knew the locomotive was fine, it was the decoder. Something had happened to the decoder. It was a Zemo decoder, a sound Zemo decoder, a very expensive sound Zemo decoder. And clearly it wasn't anything I'd done, because if it was something I'd done, the second I'd turned that power on, it would have popped if it was a short circuit, surely. And I've got loads of short circuit protection on that thing. It's short circuit protected to the hilt, and nothing. No overload, no massive current draw, nothing wrong with it whatsoever. No signs that anything was going to go wrong with it whatsoever. It was running fine, superbly, nice and smooth and slow, and then it just popped the decoder. Good night, thank you very much, that's all, goodbye. Clear. Really was the cherry on top of the fucking shit cake. And yes, I know I'm swearing, but you'd swear as well if you'd given up 2 evenings to this bloody thing and got absolutely nowhere with it. So, you want a review? Fine, here's your review. It's a very delicate, detailed locomotive. It looks awesome when it's running, if you can get it to run properly. A lot of folks out there have had really unlucky experiences with it in terms of it not working properly, the motion sticking, but again, you can lubricate it to get it running. DCC fitting it, there's no other way around it. Piss poor job, and anyone with a fucking set of eyes can see that it was a piss poor job. Now, I'm not having a go at Hornby. I do like Hornby, and I love the HM7000 decoders, and they make a lot of really nice stuff, including locomotion. It's a lovely model, but I think, I can't help but feel that it was just a little bit, was it rushed perhaps? Is there a missing piece to the pie for the DCC fitting? Will Hornby maybe, and I don't know, that this is just me riffing here, maybe they're working on a decoder which will fit in there, maybe they're working on a smaller Next 18 H7000 chip which will fit straight in there. I know they've got a Lion sound profile on there which wouldn't be too dissimilar for locomotion. So is that the case? Is that what it is? Is that why? So I don't do scoring, and I don't mince my words either. Would I recommend that you go out and buy one? Well, if you're going to look at it and put it in a cabinet, fine, yeah, lovely. But let's be honest, Hornby haven't intended for it to just be a display piece, have they? Because if they had, they wouldn't have put a speaker in the damn thing. They wouldn't have done that. They wouldn't have made it motorised if it was just meant to be a display piece. And I just feel that if they'd taken just a little bit longer to think it out and not have the PCB as the base of the tender, which was a very interesting choice, I thought, and if they just maybe tested some third-party decoders with it, the popular ones, ESU and Zemo, would have been 2, or maybe even their own, but again, we spoke about that. Maybe they've got something lined up for their own range of decoders to fit inside Locomotion. I think they'd have got a lot more of a success out of it, and I wouldn't now be sat here ranting and venting on a Sunday evening with a model sat on my layout in bits, waiting for another sound decoder to turn up. And I hope and pray that the same thing doesn't happen again. I'm just really hoping it doesn't, because I'm at the end of my tether with this sort of thing. I'm not a novice. I'm not the most experienced modeller. I'm not the cleverest modeller. I'm okay with a soldering iron. I know what I'm doing to a degree. I can turn a screw. That's it really. It shouldn't take someone of my calibre, or anyone's calibre for that matter, over 2 nights to get a locomotive DCC fitted. It shouldn't be the case. Not everyone is going to have access to a very thin jeweler's screwdriver. It's all very well sitting there saying, well, you should do, but let's be honest, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't have access to those sorts of tools, and it can just add to the layers of disappointment. Now, had it just been 1 or 2 of those things that I've experienced, maybe it wouldn't be so bad. But to have them all linked together, and one after another, and then snapping all the detail bits off, which again was my fault, whatever. You're handling a small model, bits are going to fly off of it, fine. I've managed to find them, well, one of the steps anyway. There's still a second step somewhere on the carpet and I just can't find it. So there's 1 step being recovered, and I've managed to find the handbrake, so they can be glued back on eventually. But I'm going to wait until the second chip comes and then hopefully get it all back together and get it working again. I don't know. Are you one of the folks out there that got yourself a Locomotion 1? Have you had similar issues to me? I know there's a hell of a lot of folks out there who have, and I really do understand that it's not easy making something as delicate and fiddly as Locomotion 1, and Hornby really do deserve kudos for giving it a shot. Truly they do. It's better than I could have done, absolutely it is. Do I feel that for the money we're paying for it, that Hornby could have maybe tried just a little bit harder? Maybe taken a little bit longer to develop it and just rethink the base of the tender, maybe not make that the PCB. The gears exposed under the chassis again. Okay, I understand, because of how it's designed, you've got to make concessions somewhere. I don't know, I think maybe a little bit of a rush job, but that's just my opinion. I'm not slamming Hornby, I won't slam Hornby. I don't see the mileage in it, to be fair with you. Like I say, they've done a good job to a degree, but it's just the areas where, for me, the model lets me down are quite big, and it's disappointing that I can't run it. I was hoping to have a bit more of a running session to show you good people this week for the model, but it's just not coming, I'm afraid. I don't know what to say to you. I can't get decoders left, right and centre. I've got to wait for them to arrive and get posted out. So there's a little bit of footage I've got from when it was working, for the half an hour, 40 minutes it was working. So there's that which I've sprinkled throughout this video, but I'm afraid that's it, boys and girls. So there we are. Hopefully you found this video entertaining. If anyone from Hornby is watching, please do not take this the wrong way, folks. I do respect you and I do like what you're doing, and I am a fan of the big age. I am. But for me, I think there's just, you could have done it just a little bit better, folks, I think. Just a tad better. It wouldn't have taken much. You're Hornby. You can do a lot of good stuff. You've proven you can do a lot of good stuff. HM7000 was fantastic. Come on, guys. Let's get you back on top. You can do it. Right, I'll see all you folks next week. Do leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, all the rest of that jizzle jazzle. And I'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye for now.